The day you stop making excuses, everything changes. Not gradually, not someday, but instantly. Because in that moment, you face reality. You stop lying to yourself about why your life isn't where it should be. You stop pretending that your circumstances are responsible for your failures. You stop running from the truth that you are the architect of your life, and every brick of it, good or bad, has been laid by your own hands. Excuses are comfortable. They're soft pillows for a tired mind. They let you sleep while your potential burns in silence. I don't have time. He wasn't given the same opportunities. People don't understand me. It's not my fault. Each of these phrases may sound like an explanation, but they're really just permission slips to stay weak, to stay small, to stay unchanged. Because the moment you admit you could do more, the moment you accept responsibility, the weight of that truth is heavy. It demands something from you. And that's what most people avoid. The burden of being responsible for themselves. It's easier to blame your boss, your parents, your past, or even the world itself. But here's the harsh truth. None of that will save you. The world doesn't owe you understanding. It doesn't care about your excuses. It only responds to one thing: action. And you can sit there and rationalize your situation for years, but the clock doesn't stop ticking. Time keeps moving while you keep explaining. At some point, you have to wake up and say, enough. Enough waiting for motivation. Enough telling yourself stories about why it's okay to stay stuck. The day you stop making excuses is the day you realize that no one is coming to rescue you. No teacher, no mentor, no miracle moment. It's you. It has always been you. You see, life doesn't improve because you wish for it to. It improves because you start confronting the truth of who you are and who you could be. Every time you make an excuse, you trade a piece of your potential for comfort, and comfort is the silent killer of greatness. It's what keeps talented people mediocre, intelligent people passive, and good people unfulfilled. The world rewards those who take ownership. When you own your mistakes, you gain the power to fix them. When you own your weaknesses, you gain the power to strengthen them. It's all. Responsibility is not punishment. It's freedom. Because when everything is your fault, everything is also within your control. Ask yourself this. What if the obstacle isn't your situation, but your story? What if you've been repeating a narrative for years about why things can't change, and that story has become your cage? The mind is clever. It will justify your limitations. It will whisper, you've tried before, you'll just fail again. But that voice is lying. Book, that voice is lying. It's the same voice that told you to quit last time. It's the voice that wants you safe, small, and silent. Every person who has ever changed their life started the same way, by shutting that voice down. They stopped explaining and started executing. They faced the pain of discipline instead of the pain of regret. They learned that growth is uncomfortable, that progress demands sacrifice. And they realized that excuses don't protect you. They imprison you. You can't build a future on excuses. You can't build character by running from responsibility. You can't become who you're meant to be while blaming everything around you. The day you stop making excuses, something inside you breaks, and something stronger takes its place. The fog lifts. You see clearly for the first time. You understand that every failure was a lesson, every setback a teacher, every pain a test. And suddenly you start to move. You take ownership of your mornings. You take ownership of your words. You take ownership of your choices. You stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I'll try, and start saying, and will. You stop waiting for the right time and realize the right time is now. The people who rise above, who truly change, aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who stop excusing the fall. They look at their wounds, they learn, they get up, and they move forward. That's what transformation looks like, not perfection, but accountability. So today, if you're tired of being stuck, tired of the same story, tired of the same results, then stop making excuses. Stand up even if your legs shake. Speak truth even if your voice trembles. Act even if fear stands beside you. Because the moment you do, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become the creator of destiny. You stop existing and you start living. The day you stop making excuses is the day your real life begins. When you decide to stop making excuses, it's not just a mental switch. It's a declaration of war against your own comfort zone. Because make no mistake, excuses are not harmless. They're poison. Honey. They destroy your ambition quietly, drip by drip, until you start believing that average is acceptable and that a good enough is all you can be. But deep down, you know that's not true. You know there's something greater inside you, a version of yourself that doesn't settle, doesn't hide, and doesn't explain failure away. You've seen glimpses of that person before, haven't you? The one who wakes up early, who faces fear head on, who doesn't back down when life hits hard. That version of you is real, but you keep burying it under layers of justification. It's not the right time. I'm too tired. Well, I don't have support. But those are just shields you hide behind because you're scared of what responsibility will demand from you. It's easier to live in the illusion of potential than to risk exposing yourself to failure. Yet the truth is, failure is not your enemy. Avoidance is. Every excuse you make today builds the walls of a prison you'll live in tomorrow. You don't see it happening at first. You think you're just buying time, protecting yourself from pain, saving energy. But years later, you wake up and realize the time you were saving is gone. The opportunities you were waiting for have passed, and the energy you thought you were preserving has faded into apathy. In me. That's the cost of excuses. They steal your future quietly while convincing you that you're being smart. People think discipline is the opposite of freedom, but it's not. Excuses are. Discipline gives you the structure to move forward. Excuses chain you to the past. You can't be free while blaming your circumstances. Freedom begins where justification ends. And that's why the people who change the world don't look for sympathy. They look for solutions. They know that complaining changes nothing. They don't ask, why me? They ask, why me? They ask, is what now? It's strange, isn't it? We admire those who overcome impossible odds, but we forget that they started with the same fear. The same self-doubt, the same voice in their head whispering, you can't. You can't? The only difference is they stopped listening. They took that same fear and turned it into fuel. They refused to surrender their lives to comfort, and every step they took without excuses made them stronger. Think about it. No one ever built greatness on explanations. History doesn't remember those who said, I could have done it, but it remembers those who stood up and did it despite every reason not to. Progress doesn't care about your excuses. It only responds to effort. You can be tired, broke, misunderstood, or scared. The universe doesn't discriminate. It rewards movement. When you show up, when you give your best, even when it hurts, life starts to bend in your favor. But first, you must silence the inner negotiator, the one that bargains with laziness and fear. The voice that tells you it's okay to quit because things are unfair. It will say you deserve a break when what you really deserve is progress. It will say you're not ready when the truth is no one ever is. Readiness is a myth. Growth doesn't come when conditions are perfect. It comes when you act despite imperfection. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop running from accountability. It's not easy, but it's clean. You stop wasting energy on defending your failures, and you start using that same energy to rebuild. Suddenly your problems shrink, not because they're smaller, but because you are stronger. You realize that everything you need to change your life was never outside you. It was your decision all along. The world begins to open up when you do. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to reveal themselves. People who once doubted you begin to notice. But by then, you don't need their approval anymore. You've already proven something far more important to yourself. You've learned that excuses were never your protection. They were your prison guards. You've learned that pain is temporary, but weakness is a choice. And here's the truth that will haunt you if you ignore it. One day you'll run out of tomorrows. You'll wish you started earlier. You'll wish you stopped explaining sooner, because every moment you spend justifying your stagnation is a moment you could have spent building your transformation. The price of excuses isn't comfort, it's your potential. So if you're waiting for the right time, this is it. If you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Life will not slow down for your hesitation. It will move on, with or without you. You can choose to be a spectator, making excuses while others build empires, or you can decide to step into the arena bruised but unashamed and start fighting for something real. Every great story begins the moment someone refuses to justify their weakness any longer. The moment they say, I'm done waiting, I'm done explaining, I'm done blaming, that's the day the old version of you dies, and the real one is born. The day you stop making excuses, everything changes, because you change. The world doesn't suddenly become easier. You become tougher. The problems don't disappear. You become capable of solving them. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a force of creation. Excuses will always offer comfort, but they'll never offer growth. Oh, growth. And when you finally decide to trade comfort for truth, hesitation for action, and fear for faith, that's when life opens up in ways you never imagined. That's when everything shifts. Because in that moment, you don't just stop making excuses, you start becoming unstoppable. When you finally strip away every excuse, something remarkable happens. You begin to see the world as it truly is. You stop filtering reality through fear, pride, and blame. You stop twisting facts to make yourself feel better about doing less than you're capable of. You see the raw, unfiltered truth that every limitation you once believed in was built by your own acceptance of it. The moment that realization hits, there's a strange combination of pain and liberation. Pain because you can no longer hide behind your justifications. Liberation because you finally understand that change has always been within your reach. People underestimate how much power there is in simply saying, I'm responsible. Those two words transform your mindset from that of a victim to that of a creator. For the creator. When you accept responsibility, you reclaim control. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That's the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck. One group asks, why did this happen to me? The other asks, what am I going to do about it? The difference in those questions defines the direction of your life. The truth is, excuses are addictive. They make you feel temporarily relieved. They allow you to postpone discomfort, but every time you feed them, you weaken yourself. It's like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It feels satisfying in the moment, but destroys you over time. You think you're protecting yourself from pain, but really you're protecting yourself from growth. And growth, as uncomfortable as it is the only thing that can save you from regret. Excuses are seductive because they offer entity. They give you a story to hold on to. I'm not successful because my childhood was hard. I can't do it because no one supports me. I'll start later when I have more time. Those stories feel real, but they're not truth. They're camouflage. They hide the uncomfortable fact that your potential scares you. Because if you admitted how powerful you actually are, you'd have no choice but to act differently. When you stop making excuses, the first thing you'll face is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. But the deeper fear is this, the fear of finding out that you could have done it all along. That's what terrifies people the most, that they weren't limited by the world, but by themselves. Because once you see that, there's no going back. You can't unknow it. You can't unknow it. You can't unsee your own strength. You can't return to pretending that you're powerless. And that's why this journey is not for the faint of heart. Taking responsibility for your life is brutal. It demands sacrifice. You'll have to let go of comfort, of the stories that have kept you safe, of the people who feed your excuses. You'll have to look in the mirror and face the person you've avoided becoming. But as you do, you'll also meet someone else, the version of you that's been waiting underneath all that hesitation, the one who doesn't flinch when life gets tough, the one who acts without needing permission. You'll start to see progress, not because the world suddenly favors you, but because your choices begin to align with your purpose. You'll realize that small disciplines done daily matter more than perfect plans that never begin. You'll discover that success isn't a miracle, it's a habit. And that habit starts the moment you stop excusing and start executing. The day you stop making excuses, you start to build momentum. You begin to feel the weight of your own power. You stop chasing motivation and start living by principle. You no longer wait for the right mood or perfect circumstances. You move forward because it's what's required. And as you move, life begins to respond in kind. Doors open, people notice, opportunities appear, not because they weren't there before, but because you weren't ready to see them. There's a kind of dignity that comes from owning your life. Even when things go wrong, even when you fail, you hold your head high because you know you gave everything. There's no shame in falling, only in refusing to rise. And when you've stopped making excuses, falling doesn't scare you anymore. You understand that every setback is feedback. Every mistake is a map pointing you toward mastery. You stop defining yourself by failure and start defining yourself by persistence. Imagine how different your life could look 1 year from now if you made no excuses for the next 12 months. 12 months. Imagine the skills you could develop, the relationships you could repair, the person you could become. It's not an impossible dream. It's a decision to stop lying to yourself about why you can't. Because the truth is you can. You always could. You just needed to stop telling yourself stories that said otherwise. And maybe the most beautiful part of all this is what happens to your self-respect. When you live without excuses, you start to trust yourself again. You become the kind of person you can depend on. You don't need validation, applause, or sympathy. You walk with quiet strength, knowing that no matter what happens, you'll face it head on. That kind of self-trust is rare, and it's only built through the destruction of excuses. The world respects those who take ownership. You can sense it in them. You can sense it in them. They carry themselves differently, not because life is easy, but because they've stopped negotiating with their weakness. You can do the same. It's not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about standing up and saying, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. It's up to me. You can change everything about your life, but first you must stop defending what's keeping you from changing. That's the real battle between the version of you that seeks comfort and the version that seeks growth. One will win. One will define the rest of your life. The day you stop making excuses, you reclaim your life. You stop being a passenger and become the driver. You begin to live with clarity, strength, and direction. You stop wishing for change and start creating it. The chains of blame fall away, and what's left is power, the power to rise, rebuild, and redefine what's possible. Excuses will whisper forever, but they will only control you if you listen. So choose silence over stories, action over avoidance, truth over comfort. And it's because the moment you do, the world changes, not because it had to, but because you did. When you stop making excuses, you begin to understand that the foundation of life is built on personal responsibility. It's not about blaming yourself for everything that happens. It's about recognizing that you have the ability to respond to anything that happens. That's where the word responsibility comes from. The ability to respond. Most people never use that ability. They react instead of respond. They let circumstances dictate their emotions, their choices, and ultimately their destiny. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, the perfect support. But perfection never arrives. It's an illusion created by fear to justify delay. Excuses are like chains that disguise themselves as comfort. They tell you, we're safe here. Don't try too hard, don't risk it. But the safety they offer is an illusion, too. You're not safe. You're stuck. You're trapped inside a shrinking world built by your own hesitation. The more excuses you make, the smaller your world becomes. You start to avoid challenges, avoid responsibility, avoid the mirror. You start to accept mediocrity not because you want it, but because you've convinced yourself that you can't do better. But something incredible happens when you stop making excuses. Your world begins to expand again. You start taking small actions, imperfect, maybe uncertain, but real. And each one builds a sense of momentum. You begin to see that it was never your circumstances holding you back. You back. It was never the lack of time, money, or opportunity. It was the belief that you couldn't. The second you reject that belief, you start to rebuild your reality. There's something powerful about owning your flaws, your failures, and your fears. When you own them, they lose their ability to control you. You no longer have to hide. You no longer have to protect your ego with excuses. You can face the truth that you've made mistakes, that you've wasted time, that you've fallen short, and yet you're still here. You still have breath in your lungs. You still have the ability to act differently today. That's all the power you need to change everything. Excuses are rooted in fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. But what if you stopped seeing failure as the end? What if you saw it as information, feedback, a sign that you're moving forward? Every person who has achieved anything extraordinary has failed more times than they've succeeded. They didn't get lucky. They got disciplined. They stopped explaining why things didn't work and started learning how to make them work. The mind is a master manipulator. It will always find a reason to protect you from discomfort. It will whisper, "You've done enough for today," when you haven't even started. It will say, "You deserve a break," when what you really deserve is results. The mind is clever. It doesn't want change. It wants consistency, even if that consistency keeps you miserable. That's why breaking excuses isn't easy. You're fighting against a mental system designed to keep you exactly where you are. But here's the truth. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your doorway. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from challenge. Every time you step into discomfort, you expand your capacity. You teach your mind that fear doesn't define you, that struggle doesn't break you. You become stronger, sharper, and more disciplined. And when you do that consistently, life starts rewarding you in ways that seem almost unfair. Because while others are waiting for the right moment, you're creating it. The moment you stop making excuses, people around you start noticing something different. They may not understand it, but they feel it. You start walking differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You stop talking about what you're going to do and start showing results. You don't need to convince anyone anymore because your actions speak for you. And those who once doubted you begin to respect you, not because you told them to, but because you earned it. You'll realize that most of life's problems are not as complicated as they seem. They're only complicated when filtered through fear and excuses. When you stop trying to find reasons why something can't be done, you start finding ways to make it happen. You become resourceful, resilient, relentless. Obstacles that once seemed impossible start to look like puzzles waiting to be solved. And then comes the most powerful shift of all. You begin to trust yourself again. Every time you follow through without excuses, your self-respect grows. You become proud, not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. You no longer need external validation to feel worthy. You wake up knowing that you're becoming someone dependable, someone who acts, someone who doesn't break promises to themselves. The world opens up for people like that. Opportunities appear because people trust those who take ownership. Relationships improve because honesty replaces defensiveness. Dreams start to take form because your daily habits finally match your words. It's not luck, it's alignment. It's alignment. When your actions align with your intentions, everything begins to move forward. But it all starts with one decision: the decision to stop making excuses, to stop defending limitations, to stop saying a someday and start saying a now. Life isn't waiting for you to be ready, it's waiting for you to be real. You can't rewrite your past, but you can redefine your future. And that begins the moment you decide to take full responsibility for everything within your control. There will be days when it feels impossible, when your mind screams for comfort, when quitting seems easier. But remember this: every excuse you overcome builds strength you'll use later. Every moment of accountability plants the seeds of freedom. The pain of effort is temporary. The weight of regret lasts a lifetime. Don't trade your potential for comfort. Don't settle for stories when you could live results. Conclusion: the day you stop making excuses is the day you reclaim your strength. No, it's the day you stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. It's the day you stop waiting for permission and start writing your own story. You realize that the power to change your life has always been yours. It was just buried beneath the noise of justification. When you silence that noise, everything becomes clear. The path is hard, but it's real. And the reward isn't comfort, it's transformation. Because once you stop making excuses, nothing can stop you again. The truth is, every excuse you've ever made was a small surrender, a quiet decision to stay the same. But the moment you stop surrendering, the moment you stop giving your power away to reasons, doubts, and fears, everything begins to shift. You realize that growth isn't found in waiting for the right time. It's found in deciding that this is the time. You realize that nobody is coming to rescue you, and that's not a tragedy. It's liberation. Because when you finally accept that it's all up to you, you become unstoppable. Up to you, you become unstoppable. Every challenge becomes a teacher. Every setback becomes an opportunity. Every failure becomes another step toward mastery. You begin to see that your past doesn't define you. It prepares you. It prepares you. The excuses that once limited you lose their grip, and in their place you find clarity, discipline, and conviction. You stop asking for guarantees and start building your own. You stop wishing for things to be easier and start wishing to be stronger. And that's the moment everything changes. Not the world around you, but you. The day you stop making excuses is the day you start living with purpose, with honesty, and with power. You stop waiting, stop apologizing, and start moving forward with everything you've got. Because deep down, you always had what it takes. You just needed to stop explaining why you didn't use it. So take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and decide no more excuses, no more delays, no more stories about why it can't happen. From this moment on, it's only truth, action, and progress. And progress. This is your life, own it. Because the day you stop making excuses isn't just the day everything changes. It's the day you change. And once you do, there's no turning back.